Hello and welcome back to the English Hour, where we don't just study English, we live it, breathe it, and make it part of our daily lives. Today, I want to talk about a problem that so many learners face, and it's probably something you've felt yourself. It's that moment when you know the words, you've studied the grammar, you've memorized the vocabulary, but when it's time to actually open your mouth and speak, your brain freezes. You think too much, you hesitate, and the conversation passes you by. The topic of today's episode is simple, powerful, and maybe even a little uncomfortable. Stop thinking, start talking. Let me start with a story. Years ago, I met a student who had been learning English for more than 10 years. She could read newspapers, she could write essays, she knew all the grammar terms, past perfect, conditional clauses, you name it. On paper, she looked advanced. But when we had a simple conversation, something strange happened. She paused before every sentence. She moved her lips slightly, almost whispering the words to herself before saying them out loud. And often, she would stop mid-sentence, shake her head, and say, "No, that's not right," and start over. By the end, she was exhausted. And do you know the saddest part? She was too busy correcting herself to actually connect with me. She was thinking so much that she forgot to simply talk. Now let me contrast that with another learner I knew, a man who had only studied English for about a year. His grammar was messy, his vocabulary was small, and he made mistakes all the time. But he didn't care. He spoke with confidence, laughed at his own errors, and just kept going. And because of that, he improved so much faster than the first student. Why? Because he didn't let thinking get in the way of talking. He understood something many learners miss: communication is more important than perfection. I know it's tempting to stop and think before you speak. You want to avoid mistakes. You want to sound smart. You don't want to embarrass yourself. But here's the truth: the more you think, the more you hesitate, and the harder it becomes to actually say anything. Fluency doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from training your mouth, your voice, your body to produce words naturally. It's like riding a bike. You can study the mechanics of how pedals and wheels work, but you only learn to ride when you actually get on the bike and move. And yes, you will wobble and fall, but that's part of the process. Think about children. When a child is learning their first language, they don't sit down with a grammar book. They don't think, should I use the present perfect or the past simple here? They just talk. They say things wrong. They get corrected. They try again. And little by little, their brain and tongue learn to work together. That's the secret. Fluency is not just knowledge in your head, it's a skill in your mouth. And skills are built through action, not overthinking. So, if you want to really grow in English, you need to give yourself permission to sound imperfect. You need to stop waiting for the perfect sentence and start producing real sentences, even if they're messy. People won't remember your mistakes. They'll remember your confidence, your willingness to connect, your courage to speak. In fact, when you make mistakes, people often find it charming. It shows you're human, and it shows you're trying. Let me give you a simple picture. Imagine you're standing by a swimming pool. You know the water is cold, and you don't want to jump in. So you stand there, dipping one toe, thinking, maybe I should wait. Maybe I need to check the temperature. Maybe I should ask someone if it's safe. Meanwhile, someone else just runs and jumps in. Who learns to swim faster? Obviously, the one who actually enters the water. That's how English works. The longer you stand by the pool thinking, the longer it takes to actually enjoy swimming. You need to jump in, mistakes and all. When you talk without overthinking, something magical happens. Your brain starts to adjust. The sentences that once felt heavy and awkward become lighter. The pauses shrink. The words start flowing because you're training your brain to trust your mouth. It's a bit like playing a musical instrument. If you think about every finger placement, you'll never play smoothly. But once you practice enough, your fingers just know where to go. That's what happens when you practice talking instead of only thinking. Now, I'm not saying you should never think at all. Of course, studying grammar and vocabulary has its place. But when it's time to speak, you need to switch gears. Think less, trust more. Let the words come out, even if they're not perfect. The best way to balance both is this: study when you study, but when you speak, speak freely. Don't mix the two modes. If you're speaking, focus on connection, not correction. Here's what I want you to try. For the next week, every single day, spend 5 minutes talking to yourself out loud in English without stopping. Set a timer. Choose a topic, maybe your day, maybe your plans, maybe something you love, and just go. Don't pause. Don't edit. Don't correct. Just talk. It might feel strange at first, but little by little, you'll notice that sentences come more easily. You'll be practicing the art of talking without overthinking, and that's where fluency grows. So, the next time you're in a conversation and you feel yourself freezing, remind yourself of today's message: stop thinking, start talking. Don't worry about being perfect. Worry about being present. Worry about connecting. Worry about saying something, anything instead of nothing. Because in the end, people don't connect with your perfect grammar. They connect with your ideas, your emotions, your willingness to share yourself. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the English Hour. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who needs the reminder. Remember, fluency isn't about waiting until you're ready, it's about starting before you feel ready. Stop thinking, start talking, and let your English grow naturally. Until next time, keep speaking, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself.